Thank you for bearing with while I got that little bit of prep work out of the way. I'm about to get started, and I'll take you through the process, and I'll tell you what I'm doing and what I'm using, and I will tell you the amounts. I don't think I'm going to take the time to write it down in the description or in the notes, but you can come back to this video. You can watch it however many times. It's not too tough. So what I used was 1.5 medium onion. I diced it up. You saw me do it right there. I did it right in front of you. You can use large, you can use green, yellow, red, whatever kind of bell peppers you want. I prefer to use the kind of smaller mini sweet peppers. And these ones happen to be For Earth Farms. I like them. They are a consistent product. They're organic, and I gotta give a shout out to my brother because that's the company that he works for. So, but they're a really good product. So I use like 6 or 7, which might be the equivalent of like 2 to 3 smaller, regular bell peppers. And you can add more or less, but so far I've used 1.5 onion, about 7 of the small mini sweet bell peppers. I've got this. This is a beautiful, beautiful thing. This crushed garlic. If you guys aren't using this or keeping some of this stuff in your freezer, I feel bad for you because it really takes a hell of a lot of the work out of peeling and chopping your own garlic or whatever, and it stays fresh. So it comes in these little cubes, 20 cubes. 1 cube is 1 clove. So I'm going to use probably about 3 of these in the pot. What I'll do is probably about 2 to 3, maybe 4 tablespoons of avocado oil. We're going to start to saute the onion and the bell pepper. I'll get the garlic in there, and then we're gonna start to build our beans and rice. What we're gonna add in is, this is gonna be 100% vegetarian, 100% vegan dish. So we're gonna add in some organic vegetable broth. Now, people may crucify me for this, but I don't really give a shit. If I want to take the time to soak beans overnight and then cook them the next day, I do. If I'm making dinner for my family on a Saturday, or I don't have, I'm not really planned it out. We talked about making dinner tonight, and I was like, oh, I had some people that wanted to do this. So why don't you grab A, B, and C ingredients for me? I have no problem using canned ingredients. There's nothing wrong with it. If someone tells you that there is, they can go themselves. I will tell you one thing. In my experience as a chef, I worked in an Italian restaurant and we made a shitload of marinara sauce, and there was no way in hell I was going to make my prep people poach and peel and seed tomatoes to make marinara sauce. There's companies that do that, and they make really good tomatoes. So it's one of those things where you can go through the labor and the pain of doing all of those things. Be my guest. I'm not going to knock you, but I'm showing you a way to do something simple at home that's going to be kick-ass and flavorful. So that being said, these are the beans. These are the red beans that we got. See, that says small red beans, frijoles rojos. You can use whatever brand. This is just what got brought home to me. I showed you organic chicken stock. And we're going to use probably half of this can of organic tomato sauce, and then a 28-ounce can of, there's a couple of schools of thought, whole tomatoes in juice or diced. For ease, I'm just going to use diced. Fair? Fair. All right, let's get started. Okay, I will do my best to keep the pot in the frame of the camera, but I'm still learning how to do this, so I am not very good all the time. So I have, and I know you're like, dude, you're using an electric stove. I know um, you're all critiquing me right now, but in Utah where I live, not a ton of people have gas stoves, and I think my house was built in the 70s, and electric cooking was just the way to go. So, yeah, my stove works pretty well. I cook enough to know how to use it. So right now I've got the stove on, kind of medium. We're gonna cook the bell peppers and onions for probably like 7 to 8 minutes, and get those nice and cooked down. I'll add some salt and pepper. I'll start off with probably about a tablespoon ish in here, and then I'll add the garlic. Alrighty, so you see that I've got some really nice color going on here. Let me see if I can get out of the way. I've got some nice color going on. It's cooking down, reducing, getting some of that liquid out, concentrating the flavors. At this point, I've added about just under a tablespoon of salt. You can see the measuring spoon right behind that can of tomatoes. I did it by hand, and then I poured into my measuring spoon, and it was just under a teaspoon, or under a tablespoon, probably about 2 teaspoons. So I'm going to add half of this can of tomato sauce, because we don't want it to be too tomatoey. You can add that whole thing if you'd like, but I don't. We want ours to be a little, not super tomatoey. And then I'm going to saute that for just a minute or so. Get it going. You want to, cook the tomatoes to start to bring out some of the different flavors that you have in the tomatoes. Some of the sugars take down the acidity just a little bit. And then I will get the vegetable broth in, and we will be on our way. So what I'll do is I'll put the vegetable broth in. I'll add some water. Such a pleasant sound, isn't it? I know, that's just funky. Anyway, that is a 32-ounce container of vegetable broth. And I'm going to add our tomatoes in, diced tomato. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the amount of beans that I will be putting into this is 5 cans. So 5 of these. And make sure that when you're doing it that you rinse them. You don't want all the stuff from the can in there. So I'm going to add a little bit of water. I have about 3 cups of water. I'm going to start off with about half of that. Maybe a little bit more than half. I think I just did 2 cups. And I'm going to add the beans in. So I'll bring you back in just a moment. Okay, so that worked out almost perfectly. I got the 5 cans of beans rinsed in. You can see right there I've got the beans in there. Still over medium heat. I'm going to add the rest of that water in, a cup of water. I may even add water as it starts to reduce, but I'm going to kind of keep this over medium heat, bring the temperature up just slightly to where it starts to bubble up a little bit, and then reduce it down. I want the beans to remain whole and just to kind of stew. Another component of the dish, there's 2 more components: potatoes, and then optional would be olives or capers. So we'll talk about that in just a moment.